19 meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. The first item after calling the meeting to order is citizens' time. Is there someone here who would like to say a few words about something not specifically listed on the agenda? Well, the answer is no, apparently. Okay. Next is approval of minutes for May 9th, 2019. Are we in a position to approve? Yeah? Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? 5-0-0. Okay.
By the way, Larry, so Noelle has resigned. She just feels it's too much. So at least for a while, she's agreed to do the meetings remotely until we can find somebody. So she'll be doing the minutes from home. But
Okay.
she's decided it's a little too much.
All right.
From just this position?
Planning,
And planning and.
So she's listening now?
hopefully, or on replay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi, Noel. Okay. All right, so next is, we have a request for extension to Burlington Wetland Bylaw Permit, 36 Mill Street, Beverly Van Nostrand. Is she here today?
No, she's not here. She won't be here tonight.
Okay.
So this was the three-lot subdivision off Mill Street by the power lines. It was a bylaw-only permit because it was within the riverfront area of a regulatory stream, but it was beyond the buffer zone of the bordering vegetated wetlands. So, so it's about to expire, I think in June or July perhaps, and they need an extension. They've been most recently been in for an amendment to switch it back to the 3 lots from the original 2 lot. Well, it was originally 3, then to 2, now back to 3.
Now back to 3.
Since you've approved that amendment, the planning board has also changed the driveway layout somewhat, so that there's 1 curb cut now instead of 3, and then there'll still be 3 driveways, but with 1 curb cut. It's really far from the wetlands. The amount of impervious area is not significantly different. The rain garden is a little different, but you know, she's been back and forth between the planning board a million times, the Board of Health quite a few times, us quite a few times. I'd recommend that that you approve the extension and also just approve the driveway reconfiguration as a minor engineering change and not require an additional filing for that.
All right, that's a substantial distance from the wetlands.
Very far.
Right. Okay. Any discussion?
No, that seems.
All right, could I have a motion to approve the request for extension to the Burlington Wetland Bylaw Permit for 36 Mill Street?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 5-0-0. Could I have a motion to approve and define the driveway reconfiguration as a minor engineering change for 36 Mill Street? Second?
Second.
All in favor? 5-0-0. Okay. All right. Okay, we're on item 5A. Notice is given, the commission will hold a public meeting during which time a request for determination of applicability has been filed by Christopher Priest. The commission will take all information related to proposed tree cutting and various landscaping activities within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetland. The property is located at 9 Holden Ave. The application is being heard under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14. The application materials available in the Conservation Office for public review. So why don't you folks come up, and you can come up if you'd like to. All right, so you're going to do the heavy lifting.
Always.
All right, so the way this works is you simply introduce yourself and state if you live at 9 Holden Ave, and then you say whatever you want to say. Go.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate your time. My name is Christopher Priest. I live at 9 Holden Ave, Burlington. And as the board might know, I'm here because I had some wind damage. And specifically, I had a 16 by 20 shed that sits in my backyard in the far right corner. And adjacent to that, I had 2 large pine trees, one of which, and the larger of the 2, had what I just learned was 2 leaders coming off the top. And back in April, we had some wind gusts, and one of the leaders fell on top of the shed and took out a section of, or 8 sections of my stockade fence. Subsequently, I had the tree company come down, and she evaluated the 2 trees. And in talking with her, I was educated about pine trees and why that, specifically that tree actually failed. And as you know, that when you have 2 leaders going off, that void collects water and moisture, and over the years, with the friction of the 2, that could be a fail point. And that's exactly what happened in this circumstances. So as she's doing her evaluation, I knew I had almost a similar effect on the other side of my property. On the far side, it was 4 pine trees. And what I mean by that is, they didn't look healthy over the years. I knew that. But I never knew about the leaders being that fragile at points. So after she was done, I asked her if she could assess those trees. So she did, and long and short of it is, she referred to, as she submitted a report, you should have it in your packet by her, that 3 of them should, due to health or stress reasons, should come down. The 4th is the larger of the 4, and it's pretty good health, but she says when you leave them by themselves, you're gonna probably end up having a situation that you don't want. And then this one is actually leaning more so along the fence line, but she says if it does go down, it could hit my trees. I have some maples back there, and it could roll and go towards the house. So my concern was with those 4 trees also.
Got it.
So-
Thank you. All right, for the summary. All right, Eileen, John, you have comments, please, for us?
The trees the pines that came down onto his shed were right at the edge of the wetland, just to let you know. And there is a drainage channel that runs along sort of that side of the property. The trees at the other side are, as far as I'm aware, aren't particularly close to wetland, but as he said, he did have the arborist make some notes about their health.
Okay. So do you have any particular concerns over the proposed work to clean up the
No, I don't. Those trees are gone. The shed is, I mean, there was a lot of damage out there when we saw, and I sent some pictures as well to the commissioners who weren't there. I have no issues with him taking down the trees and replacing the shed and the fence, no.
All right, let's see if anybody else has comments. Gail? Bill?
No, I agree. The assessment seems pretty thorough, and obviously the 2 on the left on the drawing definitely did flatten the shed pretty well, so they were clearly, weak, and the other one is getting the same situation the way it's growing, so I don't have a problem with it.
All right, Ed?
No, nothing to add.
Was there any recommendation for any tree replacement for the ones that are coming down?
Yes, did we suggest 1-to-1? 2-to-1, in fact, we had suggested a replacement. Because 2 of them were literally either in or at the edge of the wetland.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Are you okay with that?
What's that?
The tree replacement, we are requiring some trees to be replaced. It's under a general policy that we have when it's right next to wetlands.
Okay. Can I just say one thing? As the folks that did come out, where we were standing at those 4 pines, that fence that runs up, and you mentioned, Eileen, that where the lot line was, and it's like a good 6 feet or more, that is my land. And over the years, my next door neighbor had planted trees there, and I wasn't gonna say, hey, take those trees out for the 6 feet or whatever. But since they passed, and the daughter lives there now, and we've been talking, and she wants to put up some fence, so I was asking her if I could reclaim that land. That way I'll be moving that fence over, and I will be planting trees back there, so how soon do I have to plant the trees?
Do we have a time limit on that?
It's up to you. It's
I mean, the
3 years of the determination.
I mean, the decision is good for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I think you want to have their fence installed and then use that land.
That's what you're planning?
Yes.
Got your 3 years, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds fine to me. Everyone okay with that?
Sure.
Sure. No problem.
And how many trees do I have to replace?
Should we just read the,
Sure, why don't we?
we had said 2 to 1 in that case.
No, 2 to 1. You would explain it to them as we go through it.
Yep. Sorry, I just have to find it now.
Just the two in the wetland,
You're talking just the 2 in the wetlands?
or all 6?
All 6.
All 6?
If they're in the buffer
Would-
zone, two.
We had said that.
quite a ways
Do you
away.
agree with that, John? Placing the 4 that weren't in the
Sure, it's in
wetland
the
at
buffer
2 to
zone.
1? I know I had
Feet
written.
away.
In the buffer zone, sure.
They are
I'm
in the
not
buffer
sure
zone.
those trees on the other side are in the buffer zone. It's quite a ways away.
There's wetland behind as well.
Oh, is there?
Okay, okay.
Well, we could, I'm not sure if it's in the buffer. The applicant proposed to cut 6 trees, replace fence and repair shed. The work was located within the 100-foot buffer zone to vegetated wetlands. The trees at the southern corner of the lot proposed to be cut were less than 10 feet from the BVW. So the decision is a negative determination, which means you can go ahead with the project with the following conditions. The decision is for work as outlined only in the project description. The applicant may proceed with tree removal, fence replacement and shed repair. If removal of any other trees beyond those permitted by this decision is recommended, this will require additional approval from the Commission or Conservation Administrator and may require submission of a written assessment by a certified arborist that they pose a hazard or are in significant decline. For tree trimming or removals that are not feasible to do by hand, machinery such as a bucket truck or crane shall be located in existing lawn areas, so just means keep them out of the wetland and the buffer. If trees are removed, the stumps of the trees at the back right corner close to the shed shall not be removed without additional approval from the Commission or Administrator. The applicant is encouraged to leave snags where possible for wildlife habitat. The applicant shall plant trees at a ratio of up to 2 to 1 for the removed trees within the wetland buffer zone as mitigation. The number of trees to be planted shall be determined by Conservation Administrator. Trees shall be native with the specific species approved by the Conservation Administrator, and the rest of the conditions are our standard ones where we say don't dump debris or lawn clippings into the wetlands, don't use pesticides, herbicides or fungicides within 100 feet of wetlands. Conservation Commission members or their representatives can enter the property just to check on what's going on. And non-compliance with these conditions shall be deemed a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington bylaw.
Okay.
Yep.
So what was said in there is that the replacement for trees could be up to 2 to 1, 2 for every one, because a lot of times they don't survive. On the other hand, it's in consultation with staff, so you invite the staff there, and if there's a lot of existing trees and stuff around it, they may change it on, as far as what is actually being asked for.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because the 2 trees behind the shed, they're pretty much I believe the arborist said that due to the wetness, that the ball's actually lifting up because there's no actual soil over it. So I wouldn't want to plant another tree in that area due to that fact of the water will deteriorate that. So I would probably need some leadership where you want these trees placed. So at that point,
You can contact us when you're ready to plant the trees.
Yeah, this can be discussed on the site, actually,
sure.
okay?
And further, one more thing. The 4 trees on the far side, the wetland, or when you consider wetland, that's the water part, correct? Am I understand that correctly?
Well, it's soil conditions, the groundwater is at or close to the surface in a wetland.
Okay. So does trees have to come from that line point to the tree? Is that how you measure the 100-foot buffer zone?
Yes.
Well, we measure it from the edge of the wetland, and the edge of the wetland was not determined on this lot. We would have to look at the soils and the other vegetation, so that wasn't done for this.
So I was under the assumption that you need 100 feet from the wetlands, and when I measured from the trees, they were well over 140.
I think there was wetland behind here too.
I didn't get onto the lot.
Oh,
That was to the closest water mark, and that's high now because of
So-
spraying all the rain.
So, I mean, I was not able to, we tried getting out there today and we couldn't get into the fence, so why don't you just word the conditions that 2-to-1 replacement for any trees cut within the 100-foot buffer zone?
That's good.
And we can determine which ones were in the buffer zone.
And normally, we would not enforce
Well, it does say that, actually.
that beyond the buffer zone if-
Okay.
unless you wanted to do it.
Fine then.
We would ask, but you would not necessarily have to do it.
Right.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's the way it's worded anyway, so we can just determine on-site.
All right. Okay, so could I, if there's no further discussion, anyone here for that? Anyone want to talk about it? Yes?
I came here for citizen time and I missed it. I was wondering if there's any way to talk about what I want to talk about, if there's time for it.
Not right this.
It won't take that long.
If the people that are waiting want to give you 10 minutes, if they're willing to do that, if they don't mind.
Or you
Or
could get
why
through
don't
the
you put it
RDAs
for the
maybe?
one that's
What?
been, why don't you put it at the end for the one that's been continued? You know,
Yeah.
the Westwood, put it there, don't make the other people wait, put it.
That's true.
Where the Westwood.
Yeah, we have someone who canceled. So we have someone at number 7, we're on number 5A. So number 7, you could go in that slot, number 7.
No, it's
No,
5D.
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 5D?
Yeah.
Oh, 5D, 5D,
Okay, thank you.
okay? That's a good suggestion. All right, so if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the project at 9 Holden Ave under Burlington Bylaw Article 14, the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? That was 500. You're all set? All right, good luck with the project. Okay, notice is given that the Town Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting during which time we have another determination of applicability filed by Diana Toothaker and will be acted upon by the commission. The commission will be taking information related to a proposed in-ground pool installation within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetland. The property is at 9 Maryville Road and is being heard under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. The application materials available in the Conservation Office for public review. Is there someone here for 9 Maryville? Good evening.
Hello.
Okay, so after you introduce yourselves and probably state that you live at 9 Maryville, you can give any summary you want,
Sure.
as much as you like.
My name is Jason Toothaker. I live at 9 Maryville Road in Burlington.
And I'm Diana Toothaker. I also live at 9 Maryville.
All right, nice to see you both.
Thank you.
All right, you want to give a little short summary or a
Yeah,
long,
sure.
whatever you'd like to say?
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I think the short summary is, we moved to Burlington about a year ago. Want to put in the pool, and, we started kind of going through the process of understanding where the pool needs to go, and became aware of the conservation line. The pool itself, we specifically, we're trying to be respectful of the conservation land and trying to make sure that the pool and actually digging down into it was within the conservation buffer. What we're looking for, as far as an exception, is just the pavers. The pavers and where we put the shed. So the placement of the pool, what you can't see is that on the left-hand side of our plot land, there's a lot of very tall trees, which provide a considerable amount of shade. So we want the pool to be where the sun's gonna be. And so we still kept it to the left, inside of the conservation land. And ultimately, what we're looking for is to allow us to put pavers down, probably 5 to 7 feet, and the shed on the back end of the house, so that the shed is someplace where it won't provide more shade. So I think those are the two big things. Again, try to make sure that it's the pavers, not the pool. We were mindful of that, and there is a tree on the backhand side that we took a look at this morning. My fear with that is that we are gonna put in a fence. The tree isn't in the way of the fence, but this past early spring, there were probably 10 to 12 sizable branches that fell off of the tree, and if a fence had been there, it would have taken out the fence, hands down, without a question. And so it'd be to try to remove that tree there. So in summary, I think, in my mind, that's about it.
Okay. Eileen?
Okay, so we went out to visit this site a couple of days ago, and John and I went back there this morning. As they explained, they had come in and spoken to John some weeks ago in talking about the pool. He knew that there was wetland nearby. It had been flagged on the property next door, so he had them mark the 100-foot line, which is the wattle that we all saw out there on site today, and he said that they could start work beyond that wattle. However, as they explained, the project morphed a little bit, and they want to put, extend it beyond the 100-foot, and the shed is going into within the 100-foot buffer, but still 80 or 90 feet away. They hadn't actually mentioned the fence in the application, but it was in the drawings. I agree that the maple is the tree that is in question, and that is definitely damaged.
Okay, and are they requesting it to be taken down?
They are.
Okay. All right, and where is on the plan is this maple tree? To the right-hand side?
The part that it has all the structures in it is from a former application. I just gave that to them so that they could show the approximate wetland line. If you look at the drawing with the pool on it, it's either the next page or the page before.
Yeah,
That shows where the tree is, I believe.
okay.
So John went back to the back left corner of the property, and there's definitely wetland behind the property as well. So it's within the buffer zone from that side too.
So the
Off the back.
shed and pavers from the pool are going to be in the buffer?
Yes, some of the papers
Portions
for the
of
pool, just a few feet, 6 or 7 feet or something.
Small portions of both.
All right, do you have any issues that we should be aware of?
Nope.
Okay. Gail, anything?
No, I did see I didn't go to the site, but from the photographs, there was a note about some gravel that was,
Oh,
In the
you know what,
wetland?
that's a point where I need to just add something into the conditions about it. I don't think we said that, did we? Clearing the gravel out of the wetland.
Oh, yeah, there was a pile of gravel on that site?
I'll add a note on.
Are you talking about the pile of gravel in the far right-hand corner?
Yes.
Yes.
And
Right on the-
what are you going to add?
Just that they should remove it.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that was just sort of an artifact of the
Technically my
construction.
error.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my fault. I shouldn't have put it there.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's, a 4x4 pile.
It was a small pile.
All right. Gail, anything else? Bill, you have anything?
Not with the proposal as it sits, but I did notice that you were doing some stonework when we were there along the side of the driveway and sort of replacing what was a drainage ditch from a previous order of conditions for the property. And I'm not sure the stonework you're doing is as porous as the stones, the crushed stone that was there. I think in the future, if you are going to change something of an order of conditions, you should approach the Conservation Commission first to make sure what you're doing is acceptable. I mean, it looks lovely, you did a good job, but
Thank
you
Well, we
should.
kept the crushed rock underneath. There is
Yeah, it's
the
still
same-
crushed stone, and you're not gonna put a sealer between the pavers or anything, but, in a good rainstorm, I'm not sure how much it would catch running off of the driveway still, but,
Fair point.
it should have been, my point is, it should have been consulted with conservation before you go altering previous order of condition items.
Okay.
So I think it's okay the way it is, but it should have been, I just wanted to point that
Yeah,
out.
thank you.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Ed, anything further?
Nothing to add.
Jen?
So maybe I'm looking at the map incorrectly, but it actually looks like the vast majority of the shed is inside the buffer zone.
Yep.
The vast majority of the shed, yes. Of the pavers, it's, the majority of the
It's a new
pavers
shed?
and all of the pool is on, inside the conservation land. That piece of maybe 5 to 6 feet out and maybe 10 or 12 feet over. But the shed, yes, is in the back corner now. The placement of the shed there is specifically for the sun. If you put that shed anywhere else, it's gonna provide shade over a good portion of the pool, or be even more in the conservation area.
it must be a big shed. Sheds don't usually shade much, but
Yeah.
So is there any way that
the other
we
side.
could ask for like an alternatives analysis on the pool placement and the shed so that it isn't even affecting the 100-foot buffer zone?
It wasn't, I didn't think that was necessary, just because
Okay.
it isn't very far into the buffer, and
Okay.
it's not riverfront.
Okay.
Which we would require some sort of potentially some kind of an alternatives analysis for it.
Okay.
It's
All right.
not river, right?
No.
All right, just curious.
And what type of filter system are you using for it?
The saltwater pool.
Salt, okay.
Saltwater filtration.
All right. You're not using diatomaceous earth?
No.
Filter? Okay. Because then there's a backwash, and normally, if you were close to the wetlands, the edge of the wetlands, we'd be concerned about where you discharge the backwash.
You especially don't want
I
to.
don't think in this case, you're so far away, I don't think
Yeah.
that it's much of an issue.
But you especially don't want to be discharging saltwater.
What's that?
Especially don't want to be discharging saltwater to the wetlands.
Right, they're a long ways away,
Yeah.
But the sea bin either,
yeah,
saltwater,
yeah. Okay,
freshwater system.
all right, and no one's in the audience for this one. Okay, so we have a negative conditional determination, which essentially means we give you a few conditions, but we don't see a major problem. So what we do is we're going to review it, and then we vote, and then you'll be all set. So Eileen, would you
Okay.
please start the review?
The applicant proposed to install an in-ground pool and associated pool deck and shed. Work occurred within existing lawn and required hammering and removal of exposed rock in the backyard. The applicant also proposed to remove one maple tree at the rear of the property. The work was located within the 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetland located at the rear of the property. Part of the BVW was flagged for a project at the adjacent property, and the applicant referenced this line. The proposed work was more than 80 feet from BVW. The Conservation Commission is not formally approving the wetland resource areas on site. So as Larry explained, they have just voted, they will be voting a negative determination of applicability with the following conditions. This decision is only for work as outlined in the project description above. Prior to beginning any construction on the site, sediment barriers shall be installed and inspected by conservation staff. Sediment barriers shall be installed across the back of the lot, approximately 10 feet from the front of the existing line of rocks. Straw wattles, staked compost filters, or staked hay bales shall be used as a sediment barrier on this site and shall be installed by hand. So we're asking you to push the existing line, the wattle that you have, push it to the back of the site, especially close to where you have the, there's a large rock fill pile right now, and extend it across the back of the site. All construction or demolition materials and excavated soil shall be disposed of off-site in a legal manner. There should be no stockpiling of soil or other materials within 50 feet of wetlands. No tracking of sediments onto public roadways shall be allowed, and keep the roads clean if it does. The tree to be removed shall be replaced by a native tree somewhere on the property, and the proposed fence shall be installed in front of the existing line of rocks at the rear of the property. The rest of them say that there should be no filling or grading on the property beyond what is required for the approved work, no dumping of sediment or debris into the vegetated wetlands, no use of pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides within 100 feet of wetlands. And as I said in the previous determination, the Conservation Commission and/or representatives shall have the right to enter upon the premises just to check on the project, and non-compliance shall be deemed a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14.
And I mean, you're going to add to remove the gravel?
Yeah, I just had
And no
no
dumping,
where to
you know?
put that
Well,
exactly.
maybe like,
Under
remove
the
it
dumping
and no
one?
further dumping maybe or something, and that,
That's
I don't know. I mean,
with the construction demolition materials?
or with the dumping in the wetlands, that.
Yeah, because I think they may be considering reusing the gravel on site, because I know you had said you had redistributed it somewhat.
Yeah, and so I'll move that back inside, into where the hole in the rock is now.
Okay. I'll put it into number 8 or something,
Sounds
just
good.
to say, and the gravel shall be moved in.
I'll do that this weekend.
Okay.
Okay, so we all set? All right, so if there's nothing further from the commission, could I have a motion to approve a negative conditional determination under Burlington Bylaw, Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act? Second?
Second.
All in favor? 500. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank
Good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Looks like the pool is going to be very nice when it's done. All right. We're on item 5C. Notice is given. The Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting during which time we have another request for determination of applicability filed by Michelle Parachi. And the commission will be taking information related to, nope, that's the wrong one. Oh, no, is it? No, it's the right one. Right one. It's 100, it's a proposed in-ground pool installation with 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetland. The property is located at 9 Dennis Drive. The application is under both the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. And again, the materials available in the Conservation Office for any public review. People from 9 Dennis Drive. Good evening. Nice to see you. Please introduce yourselves and state where you live, which is probably the home. And then you can say as little as you want.
Great. I'm Michelle Parachi, and I live at 9 Dennis Drive, and I would like to install an in-ground pool in my yard.
Sounds like a great project. Okay. And with you is?
This is
I'm Ron Parachi, I'm her father.
All right.
I live at Frothingham Road in Burlington.
All right, good to see you. All right. So, you want to, anything else you want to say, or you don't have
I want
to?
to also remove some trees that are bordering the cleared part of my yard. They hang over the yard and create a lot of shade, and there's poison ivy growing on the trees.
Right, we saw that big tree in the
So
middle.
that's separate from the trees, and it may not disappear just because you move the trees.
Okay. Eileen, are you going to take this one?
Sure. There was actually quite a lot of ivy on site. Poison ivy and English ivy was all over the place, a lot of ground cover. So as they explained, Ron did actually a pretty careful RDA. He did a nice explanation of what they're proposing to do. He mentioned the 6 pine trees, but they've also marked a number of maple saplings that were growing up that they also want to remove that just weren't mentioned in your RDA. Again, I had given him just a delineation from a nearby property, just so, because we had a good idea of where wetland had recently been marked. And John and I went out again yesterday, and we didn't really notice any wetland closer than the line that's marked on your drawings. So the proposed pool would be something like 45 feet from the existing wetland as the pool is marked.
So that area of English ivy,
No, that was pretty dry.
yeah, that's,
It was
okay.
upland.
All right. All right, so,
Is
all right, so
is
Gail.
this the property here where the wetland is?
No, it's the one it's below. Move your hand down.
Down here?
Yeah, that one.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, I'll stop doing
All
that.
right.
All right, so Gail, you have anything on this one?
Nope.
All right, and Bill?
No, I did not.
And Ed? And Jen?
No.
Okay. I don't have anything either. We'd have more to say if the area directly behind was all wetlands, but it's not, so.
Oh, right.
Anyone in the audience for this? 9 Dennis Drive? All right, we have a negative determination with conditions for you, which essentially means if you adhere to a few conditions, we don't envision a problem. So what we'll do is we'll review the document with the few conditions, and then we'll vote, and then you will be on your way. Okay? So Eileen?
Okay. The applicant proposed to install an in-ground 40 by 20-foot pool and associated pool deck. Work occurred within existing lawn, mostly. The applicant also proposed to remove 6 pine trees and several Norway maple saplings. The work was located within the 100-foot buffer of a bordering vegetated wetland located at the rear of the property. The BVW was flagged for a project at the adjacent property, and the applicant referenced this line. The proposed work was approximately 45 feet from the BVW. For the purpose of this filing, the Conservation Commission did not formally approve the exact boundaries of the wetland resource areas on site. So this determination it comes with the following conditions. The decision is only for work outlined as described. Prior to beginning any construction on site, Sediment barriers shall be installed and inspected by Conservation Department staff. Sediment barriers shall be installed along the left lot line. Staked wattles shall be used at a minimum, and the sediment barrier shall remain in place while the work is being done. All construction or demolition materials and excavated soils should be disposed of off-site in a legal manner. There should be no stockpiling of soil or the materials within 50 feet of wetlands. No tracking of sediments onto public roadways shall be allowed, and in the event this occurs, sediments shall be swept from the roadway daily. The trees to be removed shall be replaced by 11 native trees somewhere on the property. No filling or grading on the property beyond what is required for the approved work. No dumping of debris or lawn clippings or sediment into the wetlands. No pesticides, herbicides, fungicides to be used within 100 feet of wetlands. And as you've already heard twice, members of the Conservation Commission can enter on the site just to check on the property, and non-compliance shall be deemed a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act and bylaw.
Okay. Any questions? Most of this stuff is standard stuff anyway.
So the tree replacement, the same as we heard before, you have 3 years to do that, is that correct?
You can contact us if you'd like to get some suggestions about native trees and where might be good spots to put them.
So I think
Oh, sorry, was that?
probably
the question?
asking whether it's 2 to 1. Is that
Oh,
what
no,
you're asking? But
I
this
was
is not
just saying
wetland.
1-to-1 in this
Yeah.
case, because you're not removing anything from the wetland, you're in the buffer zone.
Yeah, and on the wording
Right,
on
no, I
that
know
was they could invite the staff out to discuss it. So the last one, you had that wording in there. This one, you don't have that wording.
Oh. Okay. I can add it in, but you're welcome to contact us about
I will do that.
species and placement if you wish.
Yeah. Sometimes after the trees are removed, you have to look at what you have and then see what's best out there. All right, Gail, anything? Bill?
No.
Ed? Jen? Very non-controversial tonight.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Anyone in the audience for this one? 9 Dennis Drive? Nope? Nope? Yes?
I don't think that they should cut down all those trees.
Okay.
I would never object to that.
Okay.
Well, they're replacing the trees.
Okay.
We do allow cutting. I agree with you 100% that trees shouldn't be just wantonly removed from people's properties. I'm a tree lover. But, you know, in this situation and others that we've talked about tonight, when trees are removed, we sometimes require, if we have the ability to, them to be replaced. Some of these trees were Norway maples, which are not native and you really don't want growing in your area, so they'll be replaced with a native maple or pine or oak or something like that. So, you know, we will ultimately end up with the correct mix, and there will be trees replacing what was cut. But we definitely appreciate that opinion of protecting trees as much as we possibly can.
So maybe you want to go to the planning board or selectmen and to get Burlington to have a tree bill.
I think that's part of what she wants to talk to you about.
A tree
Okay.
bylaw?
All right.
Oh,
Well, you should
okay,
go to
that's-
some- You should also go to other boards, so
Yes.
I hope you're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is,
Yeah, we should close this one.
when trees are near a wetland, the function of the wetland is enhanced by having the shading and so forth, because the wetland serves as a habitat. So then we often require a 2-to-1 replacement to ensure that we get the proper shading and the replacement. When they're farther away, we offer some looser restrictions, and if they're outside the buffer zone, we really don't have any jurisdiction whatsoever. Okay, so if there's nothing further, we're ready for a vote. All those in favor? The project at 9 Dennis Drive? 1, 2,
Proposal? Okay.
Proposing the
We
motion.
need to have a motion and a second.
oh, I thought there was a motion.
No, there hasn't been yet.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the project at 9, negative conditional determination at 9 Dennis Drive?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Now we're in a position to vote. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-0-0. Okay, so you're all set with your project, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
She's shy about some-
Okay, we agreed to give the person for citizens' time, some time in a slot that's available. So please come up and identify yourself and where you live, and the floor is yours.
Okay, my name is Jenna Hensley. I am a resident in Burlington. I live off of Francis Wyman, Short Street. I am here to ask if you guys could create a bylaw for trees, because I've seen so many of them torn down for not good enough reasons and them never getting replaced. So if I have a speech here that I prepared.
Please give it.
I live on Francis Wyman, and last year there was a huge change. The beautiful trees I was used to walking by had been torn down in favor of 3 gigantic houses, all squished together. This brought to mind stories like the Lorax and the Jetsons, and made me worried about the future. Technology is moving so fast, and I'm worried that soon, if all this change continues, we won't have anything natural anymore. I can understand these 3 families wanting these houses, wanting to have a nice life, not wanting to pick up leaves in the fall, but I think that people tend to forget that cutting down 40 trees for 2 people to live just isn't fair to the hundreds of life forms we are denying a home. After all, it's just 40 trees, but it's 40 trees times 100 a year, times however many years we're going to continue this kind of development. On top of all that, there's no reason to live in a house so big, especially with smaller families of 2 or 3 living there. Smaller affordable houses, resulting in less trees being cut down and more people living in Burlington. I'm sure you're familiar with how trees can help the environment by reducing carbon and helping the ozone layer. But did you know that trees help humans too? It's scientifically proven again and again that green spaces and trees can help with mental health by lifting spirits and well-being just by being near them. Burlington is made special by the famous fall foliage. Why would we want to destroy that? It promotes tourism, well-being, and happiness for the citizens of our town. This is the next step after tackling the plastic bag issue. If we can slow down on the destruction of our forests, the town will greatly benefit. I want my kids to be able to see the gorgeous trees of my childhood home. Is this as important to you as it is to me? And I also emailed the state representative about it, and I'm gonna have a meeting with him on June 15th.
Are you going to any other boards?
I don't know, this was my first attempt.
So you should, because, in terms of trying to get a bill, you should go in front of the selectmen and probably in front of the planning board as well.
And both of those boards have citizens' times on their agendas as well.
Yeah, sorry I missed citizens' time. I was running around trying to find the building, and none of the front doors were open, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I found the side door.
So you were a bit stressed getting here.
Yeah.
I perfectly understand.
That's how we test your determination of getting here.
All right, Ed, do you have any comments on this?
No, it's a nice presentation. Stand behind exactly your feelings, including the one before. I think you just continue to do exactly what you're doing, because obviously plastic bags got well received, and it's going higher. And I think this is something that also should be going higher. The Preservation Act, I think we can also.
Do you have any
How well
advice
that's moving.
for me to keep on going forward? Like,
Have you
where to go from
investigated
here?
the other nearby towns that have tree bills that,
I already printed one, the Arlington trees.
on paper?
Yeah. Actually, I think she
I printed it.
Okay, Eileen did.
So it says Article 16, Tree Protection Bylaw. The Arlington Tree Committee is pleased to say that the Tree Preservation Bylaw passed by a large majority at the 2016 town meeting. We would like to thank the developers and tree professionals who worked with us to craft this law and organizations who supported its passage.
Okay. Let's first go to staff, then I'd like to make a comment as well. Eileen or John, any comment?
No, I encourage her to come to talk to you and start building support. It's the sort of thing that she knows. I told her it's a lot of work, a lot of hard work, meeting with committees, meeting with reps, getting bylaws passed, but it's doable, as the plastic bag ban showed. It just takes some work and determination and convincing the public of the importance. But I mean, I think people are becoming more and more aware that we're facing a climate emergency, so I think it's great.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to just say I certainly commend you for coming forward and taking a stance on this. Tree bylaw is a wonderful idea. We did, Larry in particular, push for getting some tree protections into the next, what's called Burlington Master Plan. It's the plan for all the departments in Burlington and what they hope to do in the next 10 years of Burlington. And one of the things that was proposed, and hopefully will be incorporated in the final plan, was when you build a new piece of property, a new house, there's a setback. You know, you have to be 25 feet from the sidewalk, 15 feet from the other perimeters, that any trees existing in the setbacks cannot be cut. So, you know, nowadays, somebody wants to tear down an old house, they just clear cut the entire property. And I despise that. I agree with you. Some of those trees were there before the house was there, you know, and they just cut them down without any respect. And, you know, put in a sprinkler system and a white plastic fence, and it irritates the heck out of me. Another item that you might want to bring up to the selectmen, every city and town, I believe in the state, is required to have a tree warden. We do have one, but that job is just like tacked on to, John Sanchez had that title
Very,
officially?
very busy job, yes, he is.
Yeah, I think he delegated it to the highway superintendent.
Yeah, but it's not a full-time tree warden by any means, so, you know.
And it doesn't have a bylaw to back it up.
Right, so you might want to mention a tree warden and, you know,
They
someone.
also
to
don't have a
enforce-
budget for planting trees, they just basically cut trees.
Yep.
They have no budget to
So,
plant trees.
right, the tree bylaw would help to establish some priorities for protecting trees.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes.
Of course.
Another point that I didn't write down here was I wanted to be short. I didn't know how much time that I had with you guys to talk. But with the ozone layer, the more carbon that we have in the air decreases the ozone layer, and then therefore the sunlight comes in and then it gets hotter in here.
I think you might want to check on that.
I think it's
The
that
ozone layer is above ours.
is above the atmosphere.
Right, but
And it's getting decreased because of the pollution and everything.
it's not related to.
Not by the carbon, but it's,
Yeah, so.
it's a greenhouse, she's talking about greenhouse gases in general.
Right, but that's something to just kind of look at, but there is ozone smog, but that's different from.
The ozone at the upper layer.
Yeah.
That's correct. Right.
Is a common confused with that in the greenhouse, but it's.
The ozone at ground layer is from like factory emissions and it's a combination of chemicals that come out of automobiles and things like that, carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides, and you get smog and ozone at ground layer. But then there's another there is an ozone layer that's protective in the upper atmosphere. And the wrong kinds of chemicals released to the upper atmosphere can eat away at it. So a couple of things. Bill mentioned the tree bylaw. Yeah, I put that recommendation into the draft of what we call a master plan. The master plan committee was a committee put together by the planning board, like a subcommittee, and it involved people from all the different departments. And two of the sections in there are called, one is called Open Space and Recreation, and the other one is called Natural Resources. And in one of those sections, one of the recommendations that I happen to put in, others put other recommendations is exactly a tree bylaw. We have jurisdiction as a commission, in most cases, up to 100 feet from the edge of a wetland. And then we have a bylaw that does require tree replacement. But once we're past the 100-foot buffer zone, or in some cases it's 200 feet for what we call riverfront, we don't have any jurisdiction. People can do what they want. And what you're seeing and reacting to is that, I hate to say this, there are some homeowners that have aversion to trees. They give these reasons, which I don't say too much, but I'm not sure how valid they really are. They just want their lot cleared.
Well, it's that, and they just don't want to pick up the leaves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a main
Most
reason why people don't want
I
trees.
should say most, but many people don't actually do their own yard work, so it's not like, I mean, it's my experience, but.
Yeah, so I guess the point is, it is very much needed. When you go to the planning board, you can you can first go to the office and get a copy of the natural resources and open space section of the draft master plan. In fact, I think it's on the website. You can see it on the website. You just go to the right link and you'll find it. And when you go before the planning board, I would suggest that you take a copy that you're proposing a bylaw and take a hard look at what other towns have done. And, you know, this is an example of what we could be doing. And I suggest you can do the same thing with the Board of Selectmen and hand them a copy of the bylaw. Same thing with the planning board, hand them a copy, ask them to please take a look. And I think that would help build some support. The other thing I wanted to, as a citizen activist, which you seem to be, one of the things you can do is that the newspapers and possibly the Burlington Patch as well, they allow like 400 or 500 word commentaries. In other words, you can just fix up your thing, you know, revise it if you want to, or submit your speech that you had written there, and submit it as like a 500-word commentary to the town. You send it to the newspapers, and they will print it. Essentially, you'd be like a guest author.
A letter to the editor or something like that.
Well, a letter to the editor is usually like 200 words or 250
Okay, so
words,
it's even more.
but that you can offer a guest commentary, and there's no reason why you can't do that. It helps persuade people. The other thing is, you have 6 or 7 or 8 town meeting representatives. You can go to the town, and if you haven't yet contacted them, you can do exactly the same thing and call them up and talk to them and ask them if they'd take a look at the bylaw as well.
What about the state representative? I already emailed him and he said he'd meet with me.
You-
Could he help give me the support that I need to?
I don't see why he can't, but a bylaw is a local thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and he may offer his support, but, and he may give you some suggestions by going to him. But you really have to contact some of the local people where this would get across. Are you in high school now?
Yeah, I'm in high school.
Oh, what grade are you in?
I'm a junior in high school. I go to Shawsheen in Billerica.
So
Okay.
Larry, I was just going to suggest so that, another thing that's helpful is if you draw up a petition and hang outside a grocery store or something like that, the more people that from town that you can get to sign it, to show support for it, that kind of gives a lot of support to, and for, someone who's in town politics, people in town are for this, and that's something that helps. There's also, I think, was it Concord and Lexington, I think both, and maybe some other towns also have tree bills that.
Yeah, Lexington
So
does.
that's helpful to know around, as part of your, support for this. And think kind of, so, climate change is like the biggest reason, I would agree, but there are other reasons why trees are important in terms of helping with the water runoff. So Burlington has a big problem with flooding in certain areas, so trees help that. But also, just in terms of microclimate, I commute to Boston every day, and when I drive home, driving on a street without trees versus a street that has trees on it, the temperature change is amazing. You can feel it, if you actually have your windows open. And it
just
also,
looks pretty.
well, it also, I think also lends to real estate values as well. That's something that, so those are all things that you can think about in terms of, when you try to pitch your bill to
And when you
people.
do go to like the selectmen, if you do go to other
You guys have a
boards.
pen that I could write all this stuff down?
This is also recorded,
Yeah, this whole thing is recorded as well.
so you can watch this again
You can just go.
and get the notes. It's on BCAT.
I don't watch PK.
Well, it's on Facebook. Are you on Facebook? Me neither, but you can log in as a guest and you can
Sometimes,
see it.
sometimes you have to go and get, actually do some research.
But so who do I have to go talk to? The selectmen?
The selectmen would be a good place. And what I'm thinking is if you're going to give the same presentation or a similar one to the selectmen,
Go.
the more people you show up with, the more faces that show up, the more they sit up and take notice too. So if you could bring 5 or 10 friends with you who agree with you and support you, that makes them take notice as
Well,
well.
this was only my rough draft because I came to him on like Monday or something.
Yeah.
And I only had so much time to come up with it.
Well, you got to start somewhere, and this is an
Yeah.
excellent start, so.
And this was me just seeing how you guys would react to it. And if you guys could give me advice to.
And you picked the right town board
Yeah,
to do that with.
The-
We're glad you came to us.
yeah. You said you picked the right board to start with.
100% of support.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can, through the Conservation Office, if you give them our contact information, any commissioner that wants to contact you and offer you some emails or whatever, that would be helpful. We can do that as well,
Yeah.
okay? Okay,
You
so,
actually may find like what is it, the Arbor Day group or something. There are various national groups that have to do with tree conservation, that they may have, information about how to start, a tree protection bill in your town.
yeah, there's one more point I can offer you, and
Yeah, go ahead. I'm open to everything.
you ought to contact, there's a young person, I think he's a junior or a senior now, called Stevan Shaw, S-H-A-H. And he was the high school student that led a successful campaign to ban the plastic bags.
Yeah, I
And-
heard about him.
And he can probably give you some tips on what they did to conduct their campaign, and if you're thinking of doing something similar, you might find his advice very valuable. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say?
If I could,
You can introduce yourself.
surely. For the record, I'm Frank DePietro. I'm a civil engineer with the BSC Group. I may regret what I might say, but first off, and I don't regret this, as someone who does professional speaking, you did an excellent job. Your presentation was highly put together, and for a draft, I'm very much impressed. So, thank you. Another place you might want to look at, the town is involved in a state program called the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Plan, MVP. That is being run out of the planning board, Josh Morris, at the planning board, the senior planner. And it would seem to me, talking about trees, now, the program talks about what the town's issues are, what their strengths, what their weaknesses regarding climate change and things. And ultimately, it's going to go ahead and come up with some solutions and stuff. So there may be another avenue that you can broach this subject. And again, Josh is the next office over from the conservation. Planning board has a hearing on June 6th. So again, they have citizens' time as well. You may want to think about doing that.
You said June 6th?
June 6th, yes. A personal story, a number of years ago, my youngest son had a career day at school. And as an engineer that does development and stuff, I cut down trees, sorry, as part of my project. So I took my son to the site and showed him, he wanted to know what I did so he could be me, an engineer. And when I showed him what we were going to do, I'm going to clean this and put buildings over here and do this, he turned to me and said, "Dad, what's one of the environmental guys at your office name?" And it turned out he was the environmental guy at the career day. So I commend you on your efforts. I would suggest that you could follow up the planning board folks and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Sure. We'll probably come back and invite me to the next hearing.
Okay, so,
Everyone's invited to the listening session, right?
Yeah, that's an
Yes.
open listening
Yeah,
session.
there's an open listening session for the sort of initial stages of the MVP process that Frank was talking about, next Wednesday evening at 6 PM.
and it's right here in this room.
Is
It's
it
here in this room? Okay.
In this room, next Wednesday evening at the main hearing room, that's the main hearing room. And I believe they're talking about ideas for dealing with climate change. How do you prepare for excessive wind, excessive rain, excessive temperatures?
Will I be able to put in my opinion, or are you just listening?
I think it's mostly a listening session, sort of talking about the draft, the
What they've
initial
come up with,
proposal.
and then you can comment.
But
You
you can absolutely comment on
I'm sure
proposals.
there'll be a time for you to comment. And so they have a draft of some of the ideas of how the town can deal with those issues which they know are coming.
But some of the players you want to deal with will be there, like Josh Morris will most likely be there, and some of these other individuals from planning and stuff.
And it's from 6 to 7. So, I think one thing that's helpful sometimes if the person who's sort of conducting it, Josh Morris, who is in the planning office, you might want to tell them ahead of time that,
I'm sorry, just Josh's name has been mentioned about 10 times now. He's going to be.
okay?
And I also have some advice so that I would continue to do some research about the topic, and so that you have some evidence to support what you say. But also, when you refer to what you've brought to us before with evidence and support for your statements, you should refer to it as a proposal rather than your opinion. Because if you have evidence, then, you know, it's more than opinion. You have it backed up with research that other people have written about and data that's published, and evidence is important for, you know, kind of making change and for getting people to understand and believe what you have to say.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anything further?
You go, girl.
All right.
I should talk to the selectmen
And the planning board.
and the
Planning
Yeah.
board, right.
They have, both have, when are their meetings?
And if they give you a time, show up on time.
We're on the webpage.
Yeah, so if you go to the, if you go to the website, they have regular
the
meetings.
town hall website,
Yeah, our
Yes.
calendar,
Yeah,
just look at the
calendar.
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 That'll tell you.
It'll be on the front page. You can find the link, yeah. Well, she knows the door now.
Yes,
Yeah, I
she's
do.
doing now.
What you learning?
Yeah, I'd encourage you to go to the website, and they can, you know, even the staff can show you how to get to the rerun of this meeting, and all these ideas that we kind of threw at you will be there, and then you can take notes and stop it and start it and so forth. Okay? All right, thank you very much.
I thank
Thank
you
you for
guys for
coming.
your time and for your advice and criticism, healthy criticism, and definitely helped me a lot.
Very good.
Thank you
All
guys
right,
for
Good
listening.
luck.
Thanks for your effort.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Next is, we have a continued public hearing, notice of intent, 328 to 330 Cambridge Street.
Okay.
Giving her his card. He's so sweet. You checked them. Mentoring another scientist?
Well, actually, the contact I'll give is Jeff Malloy of our office, who's working on his PhD on resiliency, climate change. He gave an excellent talk last week internally for the BSC folks on resiliency, climate change, and stuff like that. So if she contacts me, I'll try to get her in touch with Jeff.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so we have a May 20th memo from you, Frank,
Yes.
answering some questions. Do you want, there was 3 issues, do you want to review those?
Sure. So at the last conservation hearing on the 9th, I believe, 3 issues came up. One related to the infiltration system that we are proposing and its proximity to the retaining walls.
Right.
And so the issue was, is there going to be a potential for a breakout? So the water being infiltrated out of the system, would it break out through the wall? Which could have all kinds, it could undermine the retaining wall, it could do other issues. So what we looked at was standard geohydrology. We consulted with folks, and the system we have is basically solid except from the bottom. So there's no leaching from the side, only comes out of the bottom of the system. So there's a little detail in there that sort of shows that. And talking with the geohydro folks, in relatively non-porous soils, C-type soils like we found at this site, that it is typical, conservative estimate would be that as water flows away from the infiltration, it's going to get lower in the ground, and that approximate slope is about a 3-to-1 slope. Every 3 feet, it goes down a foot. And so we looked at the 3 areas from our infiltration system, the area essentially to the east, the area to the northeast, and then the area directly north. And on that plan, we sort of did a little cross-section of each of the retaining walls. On 2 of the walls, it was very clear that that drop-off plane for the infiltration was below the bottom of the wall. And one of them was maybe a foot or so up from the bottom of the wall. Look back at the design, what we're going to propose and what we standardly propose in retaining walls is a little perforated pipe behind the wall, wrapped in filter fabric, and, you know, with crushed stone, and that intercepts water. What you don't want to have in a retaining wall is water building up behind the wall and potentially pushing the wall over anyway. So we're going to put that in all the areas, even though we only need it in one location. There were then a couple of holes you would put in that would leach out that water at the bottom of the wall where it would not be an issue. So we think that addresses that concern. I've already talked with the architect, and for the retaining walls that are going to be around the edges and visible of the site, they're going to have the very more fancy type block, just for the appearance's sake. For the area, sorry, to the wetlands that is facing the wetlands, they'll have a less fancy looking modular block, but it'll be the modular block type walls. The second item that was brought up was what can we do about essentially looking ahead, addressing issues of climate change, energy reduction, resiliency. I had a couple of discussions with the project architect. He had discussions with the proponent of the project and came back with some responses. I was not able to get specific cost information from them. If I can get it, I will bring it to you folks later on. But in general, they had a couple items. One is the tenant is a state agency, and the way the state will work is that they will be responsible for the energy bills. So the requirements that the state has are to be energy efficient, certainly to have options for different types of energy availability, so they're not stuck with just one. And at this point in time, all electric buildings cost more money and would therefore be more costly to the state. So that was
Cost
one-
more money to run or to build? To run?
To both, so that
Okay.
they couldn't give me specific information, but to put in an all-electric building costs more for construction. To put solar panels on the roof costs more. However, they are utilizing a design that will structure allow solar panels to be added in the future on the building. So that's something that's going to happen there. And that for the longer-term operating costs, the gas use would be related to heating only. And that if you would look at the function of an office building, that they have flexible hours. So maybe they're open from 6 to 6 or something like that, or 7 to 7, 5 days a week. Then the gas is turned on. The heat the electric, on the other hand, is being utilized much more throughout the evening for lighting and stuff like that, for security lighting, so that the design that the architect is going to minimize the use of non-renewable energies, just to the gas for heating. The rest of it will be electrical. And then over the longer period of time, they're not sure, because of the size of the facility and stuff, that you were relatively lucky in the way it was set up with your home. That got a relatively quick rate of return. On other projects, when the proponents looked at this, that has not been as easy to do. It's a bigger facility. There may be other factors involved that may not be in there. So something that they would consider. The last item is they're going to use, and I got a C- many years ago in electrical engineering, which is why I'm a civil. But anyways, there is something called the stretch code, which is an energy code that highlights sustainability, resiliency, and stuff like that. It is not required. My understanding is it is adopted by cities and towns.
It was just passed at the town meeting.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Passed at the town meeting, yes.
All right,
the
then
Rich
good,
Energy
then
Code.
we're already combined. They were designing this facility to be compliant with the stretch code,
Okay.
which is energy efficient to an extent.
It's more energy efficient than the standard code,
Yes.
so yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Pass that on to the architect tomorrow when I speak with him.
Okay.
So that sort of, I think, addresses the second
It was
item.
passed and it's effective July 1st of this year. So
Okay, well then, I think it would be hard pressed to get the building submittal in before July 1st, to be honest. So that will be applicable. I think the last item was about the trees were being put on, we're going to be cutting down potentially on Chestnut Avenue. We had a very interesting discussion, and it was a detailed discussion at the planning board hearing on May 2nd, where they voted to approve the project with a sidewalk. The discussion we had was that we would, evaluate if we could save any of the trees, and again, the issue is we need to have handicap compliance, 32 inches at 42 inches of minimum width for passable wheelchairs. If a tree could be maintained and had that, we'd maintain it. If not, they would have to leave. There are up to 4 trees that would be removed. At least 2 of them will have to be removed based on their size. We discussed that we'd be willing to basically put a new tree in. The landscape architect at our office talked about a 3-inch caliper, 12 to 18 feet high. He wanted to be specific about the species that was being used, because he wanted one that the roots would go down and not go sideways and pop up the sidewalk in a few years. The applicant is willing to do that. I cannot say, because I have not seen the draft planning board special permit decision, that that's in there. So obviously, if it's in there, we would comply with that, and certainly would be willing to talk about that, but that's sort of the response on that item.
Okay. All right, John or Eileen, is there anything further that's missing?
I don't believe so. And the trees are beyond the buffer zone, so we don't have any conditions about that.
Are there any vernal pools behind there?
Not that I'm aware of. There aren't any mapped ones.
Okay, so anybody else start on the right? Jennifer or Ed, anything further on this project? Other on the left, Gail or Bill?
No.
Anyone in the audience for this project, 328 to 330 Cambridge Street? No. Anything further, John?
Nope.
Nope, okay. So we have a draft decision to review. We'll review it and then vote. Okay? And do these folks have a copy? I've seen it.
Yep.
Yeah, we've
we
had
do
a
have
copy.
We've reviewed
Am I
it.
with you?
Do you want?
Sorry? I mean, we have one a couple days old. There's an updated, improved version.
Yeah, it's
John just
dated May.
tweaked the wording of the one that was in question, but it's still more or less the same.
Okay. Thank you. This, I will send this to Michael. This is the book and deed reference information.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. So the proposed project is the demolition of a commercial building, construction of a new office building. Work would be within the 100-foot buffer zone, bordering vegetated wetlands. And there's the filing history, the plan references, which I believe are all up to date. Wetland values and areas subject to protection. The work won't be any closer than 20 feet from the bordering vegetated wetland. Review of the stormwater management conditions. This is a redevelopment project. It meets the standards to the maximum extent practicable. And then other findings are just standard findings. Draft conditions for, under the bylaw include condition 2, which is a proposed surety of $10,000. And it actually should say, that's fine. I was going to say cash, but I don't think, for commercial properties, we're not doing that, just residential. So that's fine. Then on to the order of conditions under the Wetlands Protection Act. The administrative conditions are all standard. Once again, the plan references are the updated plans as of sometime in May, I think was the end of April was the last revision. On to pre-construction conditions. These are all administrative conditions which are standard. Nothing unusual there that you don't typically see. On to page 3, the erosion control conditions. Once again, they're standard. 32 requires hay bales and silt fence. There's conditions about dewatering, standard conditions about protecting catch basins, all standard stuff. On to page 4 and the pollution control conditions. Those are standard. I see 44 has a reference to riverfront area, which I'll fix. There's no riverfront area on this lot. Other than that, they're standard conditions. Inspection monitoring conditions. So 47 is the requirement for weekly inspection reports, which we do require in all commercial projects. And condition 48 is regarding the penalty for not submitting those inspection reports. Drainage and stormwater management conditions. Condition 49 is once again standard, but it's the requirement that all the installation of the stormwater structures be witnessed and certified by a professional civil engineer. And 50 is requirements of the submittal and adherence to a long-term O&M plan. Miscellaneous conditions under 51 is the standard condition about prohibiting the planting of invasive species. Condition 52, so on the plan, there's a parking area that's shown as a potential future parking area and is proposed to be somewhat constructed but left as grass. So this condition is, in the event that the area shown as proposed potential future parking is not constructed prior to the issuance of the certificate of compliance, the applicant shall submit a new application. So if they decide to not construct it, go forward with a certificate of compliance, then they'll have to come back in and file for the new parking lot.
I have a comment on that condition. For the record, Christine Hung from Reamer Bronstein. So we see that the project akin to like a phased development, and which was imposed upon us by the planning board. If we had, if we had constructed this project the way we wanted, we would have built out all the parking, but the planning board had imposed, had conditioned that we land bank 14 spots, which is why it's going to be reserved for later. And so with that, because we see it kind of like a phased development, we'll construct, the first part and would like to get a partial certificate of compliance at that time. And then if we're within the 3 years, the 3-year period to build the land banks, but, we'd like to just, have it be all under the jurisdiction of this original order of conditions and not have to come back.
One of the concerns that were discussed at the planning board was setting up some conditions that had to be fulfilled by us to demonstrate the need for that parking. We suggested some items, but again, that's not something we've seen yet. So we don't know whether that's here's a bunch of pictures, the parking lot's full, or people parking on the grass, or do we have to do traffic counts or something like that? And that could impact how soon we do the additional parking if we need that.
Is there going to be some control on that parking so that people who aren't affiliated with the building won't be parking there?
My understanding, based on what the clients told us, is that they will have 5 spaces near the building, obviously, and a couple handicap, that will be designated for visitors. Every other space is supposed to be for staff. They're not assigned, but it's
So
supposed to be for...
Well, the reason why I ask is that, there's a bus there, so that people might commute a lot. But the businesses that are across the street, there is often overflow parking there that goes into the street, goes into that lot now, that people use to park because there's no place to park. And I guess I would rather not see the extra parking spaces if you don't need it, and I wouldn't want to have like a picture taken that actually is not your use, but used from other, places.
Yeah, and again, that was just, I don't know what the conditions are gonna be. They're still being worked on by the planning staff. So that may not be a condition. That was one that was talked about. I don't know what the final ones will be.
Because that is a crazy area.
So what they've asked for, John, is that they'd like to do a partial release on everything but that extra parking lot, and as long as they're within the 3 years, and then they have until the end of the 3 years to deal with that supplemental area. Do you have a comment on that?
No, there's no problem with issuing a partial certificate of compliance, but to
If it's
close
outside
it,
the 3
but
years, they need to
once
file
the
it.
full certificate of compliance is completed, all work within the buffer zone
Right.
is done. And if that isn't done, you can't be constructing a parking lot post the
For the
closure
partial
of the order.
certificate, they wouldn't necessarily get their full, bond back.
Right, yeah,
I
so
mean,
that's fine, a partial certificate.
One other item, just to sort of keep in mind, and that is that portion of the site where we'll put the future parking, that land bank parking, is going to have some work. There's an existing building there, there's other piles of material, so it's probably covered elsewhere, but there's going to be work in there to clean that area up, and it has to be stabilized and things like that if they don't build the parking lot. What we're not sure about right now is whether we'll do the cleanup and leave it as it is, and then come back in and rebuild, there's retaining walls and drainage, or whether they'll grade it off, put everything in and just don't put pavement on the top, but put grass and stuff like that on it. The drainage, anything for lighting and stuff would be in. My guess is that they'll just clean it up and leave it as it is, but you may want to think about to make sure that that piece is part of any partial certificate of compliance request, that portion of the site is stabilized.
So, you're saying what now?
Well, I think it's probably covered elsewhere in here, but any partial certificate of compliance request should include some provision or reminder that that area has to be stabilized. We're gonna be taking down, there's a small existing building in the corner over there, for example. There's a gravel driveway. All that work's gonna be done. There's a lot of junk in there. I would presume he's going to be cleaning that area up. We do have to put in some trees for screening for the abutter, so that the area should be stable.
I would think it would be reasonable before you ask for the partial certificate for that supplemental area to be stabilized.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, all right.
I don't think the commission would entertain
Right.
a request for a certificate on a site that's not stable, so.
Okay, so does the wording on number 52 need to be changed at all?
Well, we're requesting that it be removed because you know, if everything is, if the project is done, we get a partial certificate of compliance, and then as long as we're within the 3-year period, then it's all,
Okay,
then
so in the
it should be
event.
covered.
In the event that the area shown as proposed for potential future parking is not constructed prior to the, that's not the right wording, Eileen. So I think we need something that says that upon stabilization of the entire site, a partial certificate of compliance may be issued, or something like
It
that.
doesn't say part, it means a certificate that.
It says certificate of
that applies the
compliance.
full, you know,
Yep.
you know.
So do we need to change the wording here?
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so, because we wouldn't be, it just, I mean, it doesn't say we wouldn't do a partial.
Right.
No.
Yeah, so that's why I don't think that the 52 is necessary, because everything is under the, this order of conditions, and, as long as we build a land bank parking within the 3-year period, everything should be covered within this order of conditions. And if it isn't, then if we need to get an extension, we have to come back before the board, or if it is past the 3-year period, we'll have to come back before the board. And
I
the
think this
drainage
is just a
system is like
clarification.
spec'd out, to the drainage and the infiltration system, everything has been designed as if the land bank parking is gonna be completed.
I mean, I guess the question might be, could you add the word, final certificate of compliance has been issued?
Sure.
I mean, so that says if it's a partial certificate within the 3 years of the order, we still could come back in and build the,
There you
land
go.
bank parking,
That
but.
does it.
Sure.
That does it.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
Wait, I'm sorry, so what did you?
But it says it's supposed to read now, in the event that the land bank for the potential future spaces required for parking, after the final certificate of compliance has been issued, the applicant will have to submit a new application. So if we have a partial, that's not the final. I know it's mincing a little bit of words. So after the 3 years, unless we got an extension, and again, that's still an option if we wanted to do that, the commission, but if we have a final certificate of compliance issued, really, we're done, we're done with the project. We're not gonna ask for a final certificate. of
All it
compliance.
does is state the obvious, that if the final certificate is, any further work needs a new application. That's all
So
it
we still
says.
have the option, after we get the partial, to do the additional land bank parking within the 3-year timeframe. Because we have not requested a final certificate.
I see, so when we go to, when we request a final, that means we don't need the land bank.
Correct, so maybe they don't need it,
Okay.
or,
Or you have other plans for it.
yeah, and it expires after
Yeah.
3 years or whatever.
Okay, yeah, that, in concept, that makes, the concept makes sense.
Now, the client bill will yell at us tomorrow, but that's okay.
It's almost, I agree with you, it's almost not needed, because if a final certificate is issued, you can't do further work under the old certificate, under the old order, so.
Right.
Okay. All right, so, did you finish reviewing it,
John was.
John?
Yeah, well, then there's just the typical standard conditions about certificate of compliance.
All right, anything else from anyone?
I have one question. Is it appropriate for us to put in a condition that says the building has been agreed upon that it will meet the stretch energy code? Or is that something we should address with the planning board and request they put in? The reason I'm bringing it up, Frank, even if it becomes law by July 1st, and looking at it, it's only for commercial construction over 100,000 square feet. And this building is not, correct?
That's correct, it's
Yeah, it's 21.
So it would be
That's
voluntary on your part to meet the stretch energy code here, but if you agreed to do so, it would be nice to have that as a condition. Maybe we could write to the planning board and ask them to put it in their conditions?
I think it might be more, sorry.
They've already closed their hearing, so
Okay.
they can't, if they didn't discuss it during their.
No, we did not, yeah.
They're all done, okay, I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're finished,
It's not really in our purview, or
okay. I
in
understand,
yours.
but if both sides agreed upon it, it'd be the only way we could do it. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it'd get in there if we could. But I just noticing that it's residential over 3,000 square feet and new commercial construction over 100,000 square feet. Bigger buildings.
All right, I guess unless anybody has anything further to say, then we'll move along. All right, could I have a motion to close the hearing on DEP file number 122-622?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 500. Could I have a motion to issue the findings under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-622?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote. Could I have a motion to issue the order of conditions under DEP file number 122-622 under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote. And the bond is, could I have a motion to require the posting of a $10,000 performance bond for DEP file number 122-622 under Burlington Bylaw Article 14? Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Is that low for a building this magnitude?
It does seem kind of low.
And the amount of wetland interactions and drainage and,
It's not in the riverfront.
It's not that close to the wetlands, but
okay.
there's a cell tower project sort of between it and the wetlands, but
All right, I just wanted to see if that was standard, if this is more or less standard for something of this magnitude. Okay, seems low.
All those in favor? Is there a more, I already have the motion, so yeah, all those in favor? 500. Okay, I think we're done.
Thank you very much.
very
We
much.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
particularly-
Very good,
Frank,
thank you.
Where do you want us to send the order? Who should we send it to?
Send it to me.
To
Can you send it
you
to
and
me?
Remy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will get you the files, electronic files tomorrow. You're looking for tomorrow.
Emily sent them to
Oh,
me.
did she?
I'm all set, thank you. I
She's
can-
much more efficient than I am. I'm impressed.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay, next is 8 Birch Street. It's a public hearing, so let's read the notice, okay. Someone have the notice? I don't seem to have. Is this it right here? I have it. Okay, I got it. Okay, notice is hereby given, the town of Burlington will hold a public hearing. This is to take information related to a notice of intent filed by Weston and Sampson for grading, patio construction, landscaping at 8 Birch Street. The proposed work would be within the 100-foot buffer zone to bank and bordering vegetative wetlands under the state's Wetlands Protection Act in Burlington Bylaw Article 14 and is within the riverfront area pursuant to Burlington Bylaw Article 14. The commission will be reviewing information relative to the application and may issue an order of conditions. The application materials available in the Conservation Office for public review. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please introduce yourselves, and the floor is yours.
My name is Mel Higgins. I'm from Weston and Sampson. I'm here representing Mr. Mishra.
I'm the homeowner at 8 Birch Street. My name is
I think we've
Megan.
seen you before.
We definitely have. And I have to say, you guys look better than ever.
Okay.
you're off to a good start.
That's very nice of you. All right, he knows how to start a meeting, certainly. Okay, so the floor is yours. Why don't you say whatever you would like about your project?
So, am I allowed to stand up and...
Yes.
Of course you are, but just pull it, make sure the thing is on, and you hold it up fairly close so it carries.
Does this
and-
work?
Yes.
Yes.
So, we're here to discuss a yard improvement project at 8 Birch Street. If you've been to the home, you'll have noted that the backyard is rather small and the side yard even smaller. And the purpose of this proposed project is to improve the lawn, the backyard for improved enjoyment of the house for his family, his wife, and 2 young children. I think the most important thing that he would like to do is to get a more level backyard. Right now, on this side, it's flat, but as it comes to over in this direction, there's a quick drop off, and it's only 6-8 inches or so, but it's enough if kids are running around. You know how kids are, they're not going to pay attention, easy to trip, hurt themselves. And then it continues to slope a little bit more down as you go in this direction. So it would like to, you know, add some material and just make it a nice level backyard. So that's I think the biggest point that they would like to get approved. A little bit of fill area on the side here, not as much, just a small amount, less than a foot of fill, just to, again, make this a little bit level area. What they want to also do is, there is a retaining wall here, stone retaining wall. They like to put some steps down there, just to facilitate the kids, you know, going explore nature. Mr. Mishra he told me a story about how he fell down this rock wall. So, to think about safety, we're thinking that it'd be nice to get steps down there. Other parts of the project include, there's an existing wood shed to the side of the house. They like to move it over near to the retaining wall. Let's see, there's a fence line. Originally, he wanted to put a fence all the way around his property, because apparently there's someone who shows up at night who smokes and sits on his retaining wall and leaves chip bags. So that was concerning. He wanted to totally put a fence around there, understandably. However, after talking with John over the phone, this portion here would be in the wetlands, and we decided we really can't do that. But we would like to extend the fence to the stone wall. He would like to put a brick patio to the side here, and other minor bits and pieces, adding some steps, fixing an existing stone wall, and then continuing it on around here. And those are the main points of what he wants to do. Environmentally, what we have at the site is a perennial stream, and we have wetlands that go up to the base of the wall, the retaining wall. The entire house is within the 200-foot, the entire property is within the 200-foot riverfront area, as well as just about all of the property is within the 100-foot buffer zone of the BVW that's associated with the perennial stream. Finally, there's the 20-foot no disturb zone, and there are some pieces to this project that are within the no disturb zone. These pieces include moving the shed into this no disturb zone, re-leveling, and a small amount of the fence that we'd like to put up to the stone wall. And we'd like a waiver to do this work within the no disturb zone, because we don't really feel that this is going to impact this area. I know that when we were out there, I think last year, we were talking about what can we do with this, you know, to make it better. And one of the ideas was put a deck, you know, on here. And we didn't go with that idea. But by putting the shed here, we feel that that's, you know, a lot less impactful than a deck. And we feel that the steps is really sort of replacing stone with stone. We've got a stone retaining wall. We'd like to put stone steps in there. So we sort of feel that that's a wash, not an impact. And then finally, the leveling of the surface in the no disturb zone. Right now, it's altered area, it's manicured lawn. By the end of the project, it would be manicured lawn as well, so there's not really going to be a change. It's just that it's going to be a little bit higher. So those are the three, and then the fence as well as in there. I don't have a good reason to say. I don't think it's going to be a great impact, but just for additional security. And with that, I think we're just open for discussion.
Great, okay, so we will listen to comments. If there's open issues and you think you need to respond for the next meeting, you don't have to respond immediately. We'll just make a list.
Sure.
Okay? All right, so which one of you, John or Eileen, who's speaking?
Maybe we both will. Because I didn't get a chance to get out to this site this week. Obviously, I've been out there several times in the past. So I just have a couple of questions without having seen the site recently. The wetland delineation seems, on the plan, seems abbreviated. Aren't there wetlands on the left-hand side of the lot as well? So you show the stream, and the bank of the stream, right, but aren't there wetlands?
There are, yes, you're correct. There are wetlands here. We had them shown on the other plans we were in front of you before.
Okay.
You're correct.
So at some point, can you get those back on this?
Yes, we can.
And-
And I don't know if that really affects things, just because the whole area is still going to be.
Yeah, I'd just like to know how far away it is, because you're basically doing work right to the lot line, and
Yep.
not giving yourself room for wiggle room for erosion control and whatnot. And the other thing is, on this plan, it's really hard to tell, so you're not really showing contours or grades or elevations, so it's really hard to just look at this and envision what's being filled, what's being cut. I mean, I presume that when this is done, this whole thing is going to be level, more or less?
This area will be level
Yeah.
to the highest elevation over here.
So how much fill would that mean at the bottom?
When we were looking at it, I mean, I don't think it's more than 1.5 foot of height.
Well, further to that, John, the top of the stone at the edge of the wetlands is at a lower elevation, so are they planning to raise the stone wall?
We'd add another
Layer of
layer
boulders?
of boulders.
Oh, I see, okay, all right.
Just to fit right in with the existing.
So should we have some quantification of the amount of fill being brought in, or,
That'd be helpful.
yeah?
Okay.
I think we should have some quantification of, at the stone wall, how much you're raising the elevation, just so we have something to look at when we have to give the compliance certificate. Okay, so,
So do you also want, I'm just trying to think about what we need to do here. Do you also want a survey which will give exact elevations at the different points? Or do you
Before and
want us
after.
just to go out there with more simplified, where you can stand here and just figure out the elevation difference?
that's what I had in mind. I don't know if anyone else feels differently.
Well, it would be nice to know what it is now and what they're planning to change it to.
Yeah, I'm not against what you're saying. I was just looking
Right.
for how many feet of fill
Right.
at the wall. How high is that wall going?
But I think the whole, I mean, down this corner where this playscape is, that's going to be filled in and leveled, and so it'd be nice to see the, existing elevations and what the proposed will be afterwards, so we can see what the changes.
Right, but I mean, you could do it using, you don't need to do a topographic survey or a
Right.
land survey. You could do it using GPS, yeah.
Do it, what, using USGS?
Or GPS.
GPS?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't the patio set the level that you're looking for? All the way across?
Yes.
So if you went from the patio, that's what your line is. The entire backyard's got to match up to the patio.
Let's see, so we have stairs going down here.
It says they're going to be.
So I think that, was there going to be a retaining wall?
There's,
Yeah.
so
Right up.
where the patio is, that's, you're absolutely right. There's 2 steps, two flights, or, 1, 2, right? So 8 and 8, 16 is my guess, right? That's where we thought it would be.
That's where your leveling would start.
Now, the yard on the north side is higher than that. So we're not gonna go up to there. We're just gonna match up to the top of the steps, really. And
It's really not gonna be level then. It's gonna be higher on the right side and come down to the
but
patio.
not too much, and that's really mainly just near that edge area, which I think is gonna be fine, because the majority of it would get the flattened area, and we can work with that. That's,
Let me ask, can we agree that we'll get some existing grade lines and proposed grade lines on the drawing? Is that what you're thinking of doing?
Yes, we can do that with a GPS unit, we'll get
Right.
elevations.
That's, I think that's what's being asked for. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. John or Eileen, John, let's finish.
I did go out on site with the commissioners the other day, and the violation occurred, and the enforcement occurred really before I started, so I actually didn't realize how close the wetland was, that given that the line isn't on this plan until John mentioned it. I appreciate that it's a small yard and they're trying to make it as usable as possible. I like the fact that it looks like they're hoping to save the tree. The patio is going sort of inside the tree line we discussed when we were out on site.
That's still on their property.
Yes. I personally am not a fan of moving the shed to within the 20-foot or putting the proposed steps into the boulder wall.
Well, let's talk about it then. Okay, see if any commissioners who are there or anyone else has an opinion. Jen, do you want to start?
Sure, I wasn't there, but I definitely have an opinion. I don't think that putting a shed inside the no disturb zone is appropriate. And I appreciate that you put an alternatives analysis into your booklet. That was nice. But it was almost kind of like all or nothing. It was kind of like we could not do anything and it'd be bad, or we could do all this stuff and it would be great. So when I look at an alternatives analysis, it's kind of like, oh, we could put the woodshed here instead, or maybe we could not level this area or do something like that. So that's what I personally would be looking to see. I'm always a fan of people trying to get outside and things like that, but not if it's in a no disturb zone. And I would have to agree with Eileen that if you are having steps going into an area that's within a no disturb zone, that encourages people to go into the no disturb zone. So that might not be the best.
we have to go down there anyways. I've fallen twice already, once sprained my ankle, and my wife was the one who was telling him, describing it as a slow motion rhinoceros falling down.
But why do you have to go down there? I'm just curious.
Debris falls, things, you do have to go down there.
Okay.
So,
Well, but I mean, if you're concerned about somebody sitting on top of the thing, you could actually put a fence up there so that way you wouldn't fall down there, and you wouldn't have somebody sitting on that, and it'd also protect the wetland. Keep debris out of there as well.
but, I mean, the stone walls is protecting it, I think, fairly well, right? I mean, these are big boulders, it prevents any kind of, big things or anything like that.
Yeah, we were also looking to keep people out of it. So, not just.
All right, I'd like to jump, this is a topic I was going to bring up as well. My reaction was the stone wall is about big boulders, and it's about 2 feet high, maybe? 3 feet?
I would say
3 feet, maybe. Maybe it's 3 feet high. And so what you have is a pretty hefty stone wall and a very clear demarcation with, you have grass right up to the wall, and then it goes down 3 feet. And when they were asking for the waiver, what was running through my mind is, I'm not sure there's a lot of benefit in this particular case to the 20-foot no disturb. In exchange for that, and then what was running through my mind is, I wonder if these people can propose an improvement to the resource area that would justify the waiver. In other words, there's not a lot of benefit to the grass there and a 3-foot wall, and then you have the wetlands. It's very clear demarcation. But I was saying to myself, I'm wondering, the waiver usually requires, we ask for some incentive to the interests of protecting resource areas. Particularly, I was thinking on the left-hand side of something that could be enhanced. So I'm just throwing it out there, and, people may not agree with me, but that was what was running through my mind when I saw it.
So
Bill, anyone else want to comment? But let's not leave this topic if we can keep it going.
Well, I agree. I mean, the state law requires in a riverfront area that at a minimum, improvements over existing conditions must be made. So, you know,
And then
we
we're
need to
asking
see-
for a waiver.
And we're asking for a waiver of the 20-foot no disturb rule as well. As far as the shed being put into the 20-foot no disturb, I mean, it also says that any work done on structures, this is somewhat related, any work done on structures the changes should be no closer to the river than existing conditions, and any proposed work should be away from the river. If you were going to enlarge your shed, it would have to be in the direction away from the river. So moving the whole shed into the 20-foot no disturb, I think, is unacceptable as well. Maybe you could move it, you know, on the right side further back, away from outside the 20-foot no disturb.
So you're thinking in this area?
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion.
Yes. I would like to see the grades on what the changes are. And then the other comment I had was, it appears that, you're using your leaf blower and blowing leaves right over into the wetland, and that's unacceptable. There's no fill can be put into the wetlands. I mean, the other side of this fence is not no disturb, it is wetlands, right up to the wall, I mean. So, as far as the steps going into it, I would want access to it if I lived there. I would be exploring who lives there and what kind of plants grow there, and, like you said, nature and things like that. But reminded, it is meant to be a protected area. You can't go down there and put up a soccer goal or a basketball net or, anything like that. It is meant to be a protected area, so.
We would be wearing
Actually, that was-
boots and stuff if you had, if
Yes,
if
you would
that
have
was
to,
the
exactly,
scenario.
but, heavy traffic would also disturb that area.
And-
But
and-
when we allow people to put up a fence, we do allow them to have a gate, just not big enough for a wheelbarrow, but then we do allow a gate for personal access into that part of your property as well. So this is similar to that, in my
Actually, in
opinion.
my memory, a lot of times we don't have a gate or any kind of opening, that it's actually a continuous fence across the back so that there is no access to the back.
I
And
would
the
just,
additional thing is they're gonna add another layer of boulders on top of these. It's 3 feet now, and they mentioned 1.5 feet on top of that of boulders.
And then I also wonder if there's
If we allow
steps and you have this higher fill, is that going to create like, an avenue for runoff of soil and stuff off the lawn, down the steps into the wetland?
Not if it's level and stabilized, it won't. If it's sloped and not stabilized, it certainly would. So, the requirements for riverfront, Bill, are, we usually seek an improvement if they're in the inner riparian zone. So I think it's worth asking what you can do to improve the resource area in the inner riparian zone.
Let me just ask so that, to get our mind into the right place. What kind of issues do you see that we could, would be potential for improvement? I'm completely open for it, and I think it would improve it for the better. There are a lot of, there's a lot of dead wood and shrubs and.
Out in the wetlands.
But,
It shouldn't be removed from the wetlands.
So,
But normally there's
any
an-
debris down there.
Normally, debris is
Tires, I've
removed.
seen
and
tires.
Oh, no, that stuff should be removed, yes.
John or Eileen can jump in here. Debris is removed, invasive species are removed. Plantings, if something needs plantings, could be added, some kind of wetland plantings. I don't
we were
know.
actually talking about that yesterday, about adding some shrubs and maybe some ferns down at
That
the
would
base
be
of the
an
wall.
improvement over the,
You mean in the wetland?
That
If it needs it,
acceptable.
if it improves what's there.
What sparked it was, you can do both, right? You can make it pretty and wetland, right?
oh, yes.
Of course,
So
of course.
that's kind of what
We're not looking for
brainstorming.
landscaping. We're not looking for landscaping.
No, just,
No, but a healthy wetland can be very attractive, yes, it can be.
so, there are plantings like that.
To you,
Yeah, not pretty though.
Not to
So
everybody,
There's not
though.
going to be
I
like
agree.
flowering shrubs and, things like that in there.
Wetland species, wetland species.
Are you saying beauty's in the eye of the beholder?
it is. So we had a site visit at the high school a couple of weeks ago, and there's a wetland that we were told was considered an eyesore by the administration and most of the teachers, and that they'd like to remove it, and it's a wetland. and we were told it
And
was
you
an...
said okay?
Of course we did, yes.
But, and I explained that I thought that the area next to it, which was all grass with a few dandelions, was an eyesore to me. So, I mean, obviously,
And the trash that is in the parking lot and along the edge of the field is an eyesore.
You really endeared yourself in that conversation.
well, yeah, I mean, I get a little irritated when somebody says a wetland's an eyesore, but I mean, coarse woody debris,
Especially
is
from an
important.
educational institution, I'm pretty annoyed by that.
Right.
That's outrageous. That's, I'm sorry, that's just.
What are we talking about
outrageous.
now, Gail?
Well, I just,
That's an educational
I
facility.
think that's disgraceful for a place that's supposed to be about education
Right.
to.
Supposed to be teaching the kids how to save their
Yeah.
road.
But anyway, my point is that, I mean, not everybody thinks wetlands are as beautiful as we do. So when you say it can look pretty, probably what you mean is pretty is not acceptable to us.
I mean, I don't mean to introduce plants or things like that that are not supposed to be there. I don't mean that at all.
Right,
and I don't mean to
but dead
landscape-
branches and dead trees and that sort of thing are important to the creatures that live there. So we don't like it, cleaned up. Some people say, can I just clean up my wetland? Well, generally no is the answer.
I mean,
tried that, it didn't work.
That's right.
And the other problem here is that there is no buffer to this wetland.
Dark side.
Right.
And so, if we're gonna do an improvement, there should be a buffer to the wetland.
Yeah, usually a naturally vegetated buffer adjacent to the edge of the wetlands. So to the extent that you can look at the site and anything you can do on that left-hand side to recreate any naturally vegetated area, which some people even throw a native seed mix down, and they just let it grow up as they sometimes, in the past, in other projects, we've gotten 5 or 10 feet, just 5 or 10 feet more vegetative area that helps support the wetland habitat.
So just so I'm
Just keep in mind that there is a sewage drain down there, right? Over the summer, or last fall, the city did come out and removed stuff so that the manhole cover there could be visible. But just in that area, I mean, we can do whatever it makes sense.
I think what you can do after this hearing, because it's not going to close tonight, is perhaps invite the staff out for a discussion and see what ideas, sometimes when you're on site, you come up with ideas that might be helpful.
Yeah, and one thing to keep in mind too is, are we allowed to do any work that's outside of his property limits?
So I think that's possible. I mean, that Mooney Road, I don't think will ever be built.
It's a paper street back there, right? Yeah.
Right, so
Is that the town property, or we own it?
nobody really owns it at this point, so
All right, so
Plantings in there, you're thinking?
we'd have to look, but possibly, yeah.
We'll have to know where the wetlands are.
John, can we say a discussion at the site might be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Gail, do you have anything else on this one?
No, but I'm not in favor of that shed there, and,
Right, we have that.
Because there are two things going on here, that they're kind of disturbing, there's no buffer.
Yep.
We're within the riverfront area, so, they're asking for two things, a waiver and work in the riverfront. So that, to me, is double improvement, not just something small.
Does it matter that it's an already altered area?
Not in terms of riverfront, not for me.
Okay, Bill, you have any last
Alternate
thoughts?
So just keep in mind, with the previous decisions we made on this, we actually compromised some of what we wanted with the amount of work that they had to do. So we've already agreed to give up some of that buffer in the previous decision. That's how we arrived at the conditions that are there today. So, to now say we want to undo some of that and create a
Yeah.
buffer is sort of unfair.
Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay. Ed, do you have anything on this
Just
one?
the one comment that was made earlier about, you were concerned about kids on that wall that you found there.
Yes, there's
You know
like-
how they're getting access?
They're coming through the wetland area, I'm guessing. I've never seen the footsteps, but I've, come in the morning, you see whittling, somebody's whittling down there.
Said someone goes there and smokes at midnight, a midnight smoker?
Something is definitely happening, right? There's like
Burlington
beef
Bears.
jerky bags.
Yes.
I mean, we're vegetarians, so we don't eat beef jerky or anything like that, so I mean,
Right.
that's coming from outside. It's not-
I wonder if there's a way of putting some growth in there, a consideration to keep them out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's let
Something
them,
higher.
let's let them brainstorm.
That's why I'm throwing it out. It's something
Okay,
to
'cause they're
think
doing
about
work in a
based on
riverfront.
that comment.
Jen, do you have anything further?
No, nothing further.
And the record should show there is no one else here for this hearing. So what I have at the present time is that the wetlands on the left-hand side need to be indicated. I have that the quantification of the height using a GPS survey will have some existing grades and some proposed grades, so we have something to know what it looks like now and how it's supposed to look, before and after. We talked about, at this point, I think you heard the comments about moving the shed a little further back and to the right. And we have a discussion at the site may occur, and if any of the commissioners are interested, maybe you could send a notice ahead of time in case they want to join you. Okay? All right. Is there anything else that you folks have that, the list isn't too long?
Well, I think it's worth, so something that was a question mark when I was at the site was there was a sizable tree that fell from the wetlands into the wetlands towards his retaining wall and
Right.
onto the wall. I didn't know if he's allowed to remove that tree. I know that we do like dead growth in the wetlands, it's habitat. For something like this where it's, he's got manicured lawn and then, your retaining wall and a dead tree right there. I don't know if that's allowable to remove that, to go in with a chainsaw
Let's ask
or
staff
not.
their opinion on that. It's a large tree that fell in the cleared area of the wetlands.
Well, I mean, I have to see, is it actually touching the retaining wall?
It was into the yard, actually, so I chopped the branches in our yard.
Oh.
Then I left it there.
And now there's a large, long tree laying in the wetland. It's sort of a cleared wetland.
Great for like animals.
It's some feet away from the retaining wall, it's not doing any harm.
I think if you want to bring it up during the site visit again, you can bring it up. I think you sort of heard an opinion here, but
I didn't actually hear it. Was it a, don't touch it?
Yeah.
Okay.
that would be, sorry.
Oh, I have a picture right here. I have a picture, just showing John.
Anyone else have a different opinion here on that?
I mean, that's the kind of stuff we'd maybe expect you to drag into the
mean here?
wetland when you're doing the restoration.
What are we talking about?
It could be-
When you
it
do
could be
wetland
pushed further
restoration,
back
you
into the
pull
wetland. Is
woody
this-
coarse woody debris in
We
when
can,
you're doing the
yeah,
It could be
restoration.
pushed a bit further back.
So you would add stuff like
Okay,
that, not
get it
take,
off the wall.
not take it away.
Yes, yes. I'm just saying, yes, they can take it off the wall.
Oh,
Push
yeah,
it back further.
All right, is there anything else? Are we all set?
Big tree.
So the next meeting is
Things.
June
Thought I
13th. So I assume, doesn't look like there's too much here. You think you'll be ready make those few changes on the plan, and you'll be back,
How far ahead of time do you need updated plans?
it's about a week ahead of time?
Right.
Trying to think, how far is that?
It's 3 weeks to the next meeting.
It's 3 weeks to the next meeting.
Oh, so we have 2
So
weeks
you
to
have
get it.
time, yeah.
Yes,
Does that work for you?
I think it's sure.
Okay, so we'll continue the hearing until June 13th.
And is there also going to be a site visit to discuss riverfront improvements?
Yeah, we should
Yeah.
contact us and we'll
It's
set it up.
mainly organized through staff, and if any of the commissioners are available to join, they will.
Okay,
Okay?
perfect, thank you.
All right, anything
Thanks for
further?
coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you middle of June.
thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Is it one of those, is this property furniture? That's not his property.
Okay, planning board comments. Do we have comments for the planning board?
No.
No. Subcommittee and staff reports and updates. I gather our budget was approved at town meeting?
It was.
It was.
Okay.
I had a question about that. I was looking at the plans, I forget what it was in now, but there was like estimated budgets for the next 5 years. And there's an item like 3 years out for $1 million for conservation?
So that's the 10-year capital plan.
Yeah.
So Paul Sagarino, I've mentioned him several times, that there's a parcel of land that's on Lexington and Bedford Street, the Perrow Farm. That's probably the only potential open space acquisition left in town of any magnitude. And that it's under Chapter 61A, so they're getting an agricultural tax break, so the town would get right of first refusal if they decide to sell it. And I think that the town, when that time comes, the town should try to purchase the property. And he said, well, budget for it then, put it in the budget, and we'll plan on it.
How did you arrive at the million? Is this kind of?
It's a good question. I don't remember how we came up with that number.
Acres, isn't it?
It's, yeah, it's about 7 acres, I think, and some of it's wetlands. So it was just a ballpark figure. I mean, and I think I put it out like 6 or 7 years,
It
so,
was within the 10 years, but
Yeah.
not in the
So
near
this is
future.
like a placeholder, so
Yeah.
to speak.
more or less, yeah.
I know that one of the selectmen had contacted me a number of times in the past and was interested.
Yeah.
And that's very interested in this, the town acquiring it. Okay. That was Chris Hotling. He was very keen on not letting the one remaining open space go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there's not much left.
Okay. All right, upcoming meetings, June 13th, and the next one is June 27th. Other business, do we have any other business?
I have one item.
I have
Yes.
one quick thing too, but go ahead.
At the town meeting, we did vote to adopt into the general bylaw the stretch energy code. And that is the last of 5 steps needed to make Burlington a green community. The other ones involve some other energy-saving things and some, buying energy-efficient vehicles for the town. And we've already accomplished 3 of them. We're in the process of accomplishing one of them. So this was the last that would get us into the green community designation. And the stretch energy code is designed to change the building code with a additional stretch in the area of energy conservation in buildings. Buildings account for vast majority of carbon going into the atmosphere. A lot of it is from buildings, most of it is from buildings. So this it applies to new residential construction over 3,000 square feet, new commercial construction over 100,000 square feet. And these buildings, all these new buildings must have a home energy rating system number of 55 or below. And there's a system of rating energy efficiency.
Is there a-
100 is considered a typical average home.
Is there a place to look at for homeowners who are thinking of knocking down an old building and they're building more than 3,000 square foot? Is there a place that they can go look at that?
Sure. I mean, it's in the whole area of green community. It's going to be in our general bylaws. It'll be a requirement for the designers of those houses to do.
I think there is a website the state has on the green communities thing.
Is there anything in
Most
that
likely.
bill about use of, pesticides and stuff?
No.
Because that would be something that should be there.
On energy,
No, was this just for energy?
yes. This
Does
is
it talk about,
specifically
Well,
energy.
it does have some relationship to energy. 'cause
And
it
what
takes a lot of
happens if
energy
you-
to make those things.
If you become a green community, you are then eligible for grants from the state on an annual basis.
I see.
And like Arlington has already received $1.5 million, Bedford $800,000. And these grants can be applied for things like potential projects in Burlington, put new HVAC units at the Burlington High School, or the recreation energy management system, LED lighting in all schools, municipal buildings. You get funding to help support,
So is
because
the
you're
school-
supporting green energy.
Is the school department seeking a grant for HVAC under the Green Communities
They will be,
program?
I would think, once we become a green community. It's gonna take some time for this.
They've been
to go
asking
through.
for that
They
HVAC
have.
on the high
Right.
school for many years.
They're now gonna no longer request it under their grant from the state, because it just hasn't worked for 8 years.
Well,
in a row.
when you get 8 years, no.
Right, now they're gonna request elementary school new structure, I think, instead of trying to improve the high school. The real problem with getting it from the state is the state puts great emphasis on schools that are too small for the staff, for the number of students they have. And Burlington High School is officially twice the size of what it needs for the number of students that it has. That's why they're renting out space to BCAT.
Yeah, those high school students
And the
don't
science
need, they don't need
center.
reliable HVAC, do they?
So the state is not putting it high on their priority list to improve the existing high school. So we're going to have to go through that for other standard funding and use that state application process for other projects, like the crowded elementary schools that we have.
You don't think the green communities funds would do anything for the new science labs that they need desperately at the high school?
Not in the green community, I don't think. This is
The
strictly
Institute of
energy
Energy
conservation.
That also has been refused 8 times by
Yeah,
the state.
Yeah,
Okay, I think we're off topic.
Yes.
yeah.
All right, okay, anything else?
I have one thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
Gail.
So is there a way that we can put something into our requirements for applicants to only submit things on recyclable paper, no plastic, that kind of stuff? And is there a reason why our stuff is not double-sided? Do we not have a copy machine that double-sides stuff?
Stuff we give you is double-sided for the most
So
part.
everything I had, all the, you know,
I know we were having
they're all
problems
like
with the copiers
single-sided.
today.
They're all single-sided.
Yeah, today there was an issue with the copier.
Okay. A lot of times I just get stuff that's single-sided.
I mean,
We,
we'd like to send you everything electronically.
That'd be fine for me.
Anybody who doesn't want
I would-
paper,
I
just
would-
tell us.
Well,
and we can send
I've
are you
said this
happy for us
before.
to not give you anything
Yeah, I can
except
just bring my
plans?
computer to the, you know, and, you know, use the
Do you
computer.
still want plans on paper? You, Gail, I'm not pointing at you.
Yeah.
Plans, yes. Anybody else who would prefer only electronic? Gail and Jennifer. Right, that's paper gone for you two.
Yeah. But it would be nice if too, like, the applicants, you know, just sent us stuff that's paper, that can be at least recycled and not like,
Yeah,
you know,
and
pamphlets that are bound in binders and all this other
it
stuff. that
wouldn't
we get.
hurt to add double-sided
Yeah.
is preferred for all submittals.
I would say required. Why say preferred? I mean, required. It saves-
Required.
Well, a lot of say RDAs are just people who, like, you know, the homeowners that we saw
Yeah,
tonight, who are
that's-
sort
yeah.
of just,
Yeah.
this is,
They're
this is,
printing it
this
from
is
their-
a struggle for them, or it's new for them.
Yeah, no, that's fine, but I mean, like,
So
big
you can say
commercial.
required for, you can
commercial,
say
yeah.
required for commercial
Yeah.
applicants
Yeah.
and preferred for
Right.
residential.
And less is more.
We can put a note on our instructions.
Less is always
I
more.
think that's a good thought, Gail. Okay, anything further? Could there's a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved.
Second? Anyone in favor?
Yo.
That was unanimous.
So I'm going on a Blandly Turtle